Hi everybody, it's Mr. Gray here. Thank you again for a great week. I just have a few announcements for you off the top here. Monday is no school to celebrate the Martin Luther King Day holiday. And then Wednesday next week, the 17th, we have an on-site field trip. So there's people coming to talk about from the Printing Press Museum, and they kind of talk about some of the kind of daily life or struggles having to do with printing press in colonial America, as well as there is a Benjamin Franklin historian to come kind of teach us about Benjamin Franklin and his life and a little bit about the American Revolution, as now we're getting into that like colonial life in our social studies and history study. Also, this week I was out one day and had a sub because my wife wasn't feeling good and I had to take my son to the doctor. Everyone's feeling much better now, but it was just kind of a random thing. And then I have a day I'll be out next week on Thursday. All of the 5th grade teachers in the district get together for one day and we work on lots of different things. So that'll be happening next week. I'll be gone on January 18th. Then I'll also be gone on January 23rd, the following week, because we'll be together with all the APIS teachers during that week. So that can cause a little bit of a disruption with the students. I'm sorry about that. That has to happen. I'd much rather be here as always with your kids. But those are just some things coming up that you might need to know about. And then also there's some days off of school coming up, which is on the updates page in February, coming up for the days where there's no school. Open house on February 15th, and then no school on Friday the 16th and Monday the 19th of February. So that's what's going on for like the announcements and what's coming up. For reading next week, the kids are going to finish Esperanza Rising and finish up their work. They're going to have a chance to kind of put their final thoughts down in a reader's notebook page about their work, and then we'll have a day to share those out. I'll be reading Number the Stars. I didn't get a chance to start it this week, but I'll be reading that out loud to the students. Our next unit, which will start the week after, is historical fiction, which is really a continuation of the fiction unit we did at the start of the year. So we're still looking at characters and conflicts and theme and symbols, but we're doing it now with a historical context. So for a while, we're going to be studying historical fiction having to do with World War II, because there are lots of books for 10, 11, 12-year-olds that has to do with like kids of that age in a World War II setting, like Number the Stars. And then we'll move on to American Revolution books in a few weeks, which will kind of tie in really closely with our social studies. So Number the Stars not only gets us into historical fiction as a genre, but also the World War II setting, which will be important for a lot of the books the kids are going to be reading in the next few weeks. But that'll be a really fun unit. I think the kids will really like their exciting, adventurous stories, and we'll be able to get a lot of good study out of that time. In writing, we're going to start our next unit, which is memoir. The kids will be writing some memoirs, some stories about their own life. This is a very fun and very challenging unit for lots of kids. So it'll be fun because they kind of get to relive parts of their life and give their own thoughts. It's not exactly narrative. It's not exactly the writing where they're writing information or opinion. It's kind of this like amorphous combination of all of those. So some students are going to really enjoy that there gets to be this like kind of creative part of as they relive their life, and some students will have some trouble with it because it's not as structured as some other units that we do. But we'll get into kind of generating some story ideas, and then we're going to be studying a couple of short memoir stories to kind of get the idea about what a memoir is and how I might write it. And then the week after, we'll actually get into doing some writing in that department. For social studies, we're going to be working on our National History Day projects. Those are going to be due Wednesday, January 24th. However, if some of your students want to submit to the contest, which that is due January 22nd. They'll submit to me, Mrs. Gray, the 6th grade teacher, and I will look at them on January 22nd. And we will like choose the top 2 in each category, the top 2 podcasts and the top 2 posters. If your students are doing something else, they might have chosen another project because they're not going to be submitting to the contest. Theirs is due on Wednesday, January 24th. And so for those contest people, the winners will find out who they are on that Monday, and then there's some paperwork to fill out. We have to get that in so you're into the county competition. So we're working hard on that. The kids are doing a project on a turning point in history. They have to make a poster or a podcast or a website, and they have to follow the rules of the contest, as well as turning in a title page, a process paper, meaning like a reflection on how they found out the information, and an annotated bibliography. So there's a lot to be done, and we're going to be working hard on that next week. For math next week, our unit we're going to be focused on for a while is having to do with fractions. So the kids are going to be working on addition and subtraction and multiplication of fractions first. There's a lot of things we need to do to kind of cross the T's and dot the I's on that, as well as introducing some real world problems into addition, subtraction, and multiplication of fractions. And we're going to kind of get through that pretty quickly before we move on to division of fractions, which has some more wrinkles to it. But that's what's happening in math next week. There's no big things happening for science except going to science lab with Ms. DeMarco, and no leadership or language next week. That'll come back into the fray quite soon. So thank you again. Another great week as always. Email me with questions or comments, but it has been great to be back at school for a week and to get to see the kids. We're all back together and really rolling. This is going to be a busy time of year, as I've said, and a lot of exciting things happening. So we're already getting moving, and I feel a lot of excitement, so it's going to be really fun. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.